I've honestly never been so ashamed of our parliament in my entire life. They had a vote tonight about whether or not to call for a ceasefire in Gaza, basically telling the Israeli government to stop killing people because there are now 30,000 people that have died. And it descended into some big party political spat between the Tories, Labour, and the SNP. 30,000 people dead, and it became about party politics because the Speaker, the guy who sort of controls the referee of the House of Parliament, was supposed to basically allow an opposition day motion from the SNP, so the Scottish National Party. Basically, it was their initial idea to call for the ceasefire and to put that before Parliament for them to vote on it. But Labour put forward an amendment, and the way that the Speaker did it, Lindsay Hoyle, made it so that if that amendment passed, then the SNP version, nobody would be able to vote on that. And the reason why he did that was because we're hearing that basically Labour put pressure on him, basically Keir Starmer put pressure on him to avoid a situation where the SNP amendment got voted on, i.e., because the SNP amendment was basically like, we want a proper ceasefire, no ifs, no buts. And the Labour version was much more, yeah, but as long as the hostages come, that sort of thing. Labour didn't want a situation where they'd have to vote against a ceasefire because it would make them look bad. So because of that, essentially they weren't allowed to vote on an amendment to call for a proper ceasefire, no ifs, no buts. All because they didn't want to look bad. We're talking about whether or not 30,000 people and, 2 million people in Gaza are safe and are able to go about their lives without being blown to shit. And Labour and the Speaker decided to not give us a chance to say, let's stop the killing, no ifs, no buts, because they didn't want to look bad. And it descended into this utter almighty just everybody shouting, all kinds of bullshit went down. The deputy speaker, because the original speaker had to leave because everyone was so pissed at him, the deputy speaker came back and basically rammed through all the votes. And most people didn't even realize the votes were happening. Like usually with these sorts of things, especially on a vote this important, you'd have a division, i.e. the MPs go in one by one and they say which way they're going to vote. They did this by fucking shouting who shouted the loudest. Which can be done on some things, but not on something this big. And most people didn't even realize it was happening. It was fucking shameful.